Excellent. Welcome everyone to the first developer user group of 2026. We're very excited to get this year underway with a lot more events coming up. Before we get started, I want to thank our sponsors, JetBrains, who have given us 3 vouchers to give away tonight. And those vouchers entitle you to get like any one of their product suites. I make use of IntelliJ every day, and like one of the products you can get from them. It's amazing. And we also have OfferZen as a sponsor nowadays. They've joined for 2026. We're very excited for that because if you're in South Africa, you know who OfferZen is. Probably the leading recruitment company for software developers. And as part of them joining, they are giving everyone, I think it's like 5 people or 10 people, a swag hamper. So if you would like to complete a very short form to say you were at the meetup and you give them a name and email address, they will send you a little pack of sweet free swag, including probably one of their awesome OfferZen shirts. So I'll give you one more, like a moment to get that there. It's really worth doing, and it helps us a lot as well as a user group because it shows them that people are coming to the events. And then also OfferZen, as you may know, runs the Dev Nation survey every year. It's a really important survey for the community. They give out all the data they collect in it, and it's probably the leading source of information that your boss uses to work out how much you should get paid, because there's a lot of salary information in it. It does take about 15 minutes to do. It is nice and detailed, but you can get amazing OfferZen swag. I think it's like hoodies they're giving away this year for completing it. So yeah, absolutely worth your time to do that as well. Not only do you get cool stuff, but you help the community, the largest African developer community. I'll paste these links into the chat during our session as well, so you'll have them there if you need them. And then finally, as you may not know, the user group also runs a conference once a year. It's the largest agnostic conference for software developers in Southern Africa. We have over 1,200 people expected this year. It's going to be really great. It's going to be in Johannesburg on the 12th of May and Cape Town on the 14th of May. And we have tickets on sale. We're about half sold out in both cities. Cape Town's a little bit ahead over Joburg. And we also have sponsorship packages available. So if you are interested in attending DevConf, it's an amazing one-day event, really worth your time. You'll learn a lot, you'll meet a lot of cool people. There's a lot of amazing giveaways. One of our sponsors this year, a company called TDD, is a consultancy in Durban, and they emailed me yesterday and they're giving away a PlayStation 5 at it. So yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. So yeah, if you are interested, have a look there. And now I'm gonna hand over to Ravindra to give us an intro to today's talk.
Cool, everyone. Well, thank you very much for having me, and potentially Bereket, who may join slightly in a bit. My name's Ravindra Mistry. Some people call me Ravi, some people call me Rav. I was born and raised in Johannesburg, and I currently live in San Francisco and work for a company called Better Auth. So I was a founding operator at Better Auth. So Better Auth was founded by a gentleman by the name of Bereket Ngida. He is an Ethiopian national, and I'll let him tell the story about his journey to create Better Auth and what that was like, going from Ethiopia, kind of in his room coding for a project, finding a problem, and engaging in an online developer community, and how that resulted in him ultimately making the journey through to Y-Combinator in San Francisco, raising a seed round, and currently where we are today as a company that's simultaneously building an open source product and maintaining this open source system in a very developer-centric way, and at the same time, trying to monetize that and create a sustainable business that holds true to the identity of being, developer first, but also faces the realities of, needing to be a sustainable entity. So I would like to just preface by saying that I'm not a technical person. So my background is very much product, go-to-market, finance, and operations. So I've always sat on the other side of the house. But I've, personally worked in a lot of technical companies. So my personal journey is I started out at Deloitte in Johannesburg. After that, I spent 5 years at a company called Capital I Investments. Capital I Investments was a quasi-seed stage investment firm, quasi-growth stage investment firm, and really emerged out of the old UCS group, and really took a domain expertise in retail software and financial transactional engines, and invested in early stage businesses, in and around 2011 through to 2015. And this is a time where there was obviously a lot of convergence in the market, retailers selling financial services products and vice versa, etc. And, we invested behind the likes of Y Group. We seed funded Ecorca, so that's Matt, Clive, and Ramsey. They were acquired by NetBank for just under 2 billion recently. And a bunch of other businesses. So Capital I Investments is now Crossfin Technologies, and Dean and Anton and team are still running that, and are still quite active fintech investors in the South African market. So suffice to say, I spent 5 years with Capital I Investments in Joburg. After that, I decided it was time to come back to the US, and I came to Stanford Business School. I spent an incredible 2 years there. And one of the kind of takeaways I got from there was, people were like, hey, you have a great financial background, you know how to understand a business plan, etc. But you've never actually sat operationally inside a business. You've never dealt with the hard decisions of, pivoting a strategy, hiring and firing people, dealing with the hard constraints of limited capital. And I took that to heart, and I joined a enterprise SaaS startup, Series B, called Niansa. The company was focused on network performance analytics and IoT security. So very simply, what we used to do is used to connect an appliance to the span port of a network and mirror network traffic. And, we'd basically baseline that data and use, correlations and deviances from that baseline and attribute them to either performance and security issues. So, use cases where obviously organizations like large university campuses, etc., where having, constant Wi-Fi, ready and available was critical, and, being able to root cause issues quickly, was critical to that underlying user base. But then we found some interesting applications outside of that within the likes of manufacturing. So, Tesla used it to identify when, automated machines on their factory floor would go down. We found some applications within healthcare where, from an IoT security standpoint, we, could identify issues with devices or unusual traffic, malware, etc. And very long story short, we were acquired by VMware. We were quite small. We grew to about $10 million in revenue. So within the context of the Bay Area, very, very small. And we were acquired by VMware, specifically into a business unit that, did $1 billion in revenue. So in my world, 10 million was huge. And I quickly got cut down to size when we joined VMware. VMware was acquired by Broadcom, and I decided that it was time to get back into the startup world, which I really enjoyed. I was very fortunate to be connected to Bereket, who had just raised a seed round and was growing a team in person in San Francisco. So I've joined as a kind of founding operator, and I kind of look after all things non-technical, from a from a business standpoint, but Bereket has just joined us. So I'd like to introduce you all to Bereket Ngida. Very grateful that he's joined this morning. As mentioned, last night we were at a Versal Skills event where Bereket was, presenting, alongside like founders of some really big tech companies. We were one of the early adopters of Versal Skills, and they invited us to present, at the event. We're also, in the midst of literally launching a product this week. So this event booked a couple of months ago has just coincided with a pretty intense week, and he's had many long nights, getting us ready. So I'm very grateful that he's here. The intention is just to share his journey, from Ethiopia, why he's so passionate about, being very developer-centric around this concept of democratizing access to high-quality software, right? We held a hackathon 2 weeks ago at Y-Combinator, and the theme was Better Hack, and it was all about building better software, stripping things down to their core essentials and building a better version of what you wanted to see. And philosophically, it's centered around this idea that we should be building better things, and I think the time is ripe for that. So I'm gonna shut up because I am definitely not who you want to hear from. So I'm gonna hand it over to Bereket.
Thank you, Ravi. Hey everyone. I'm sorry about getting late here. Hopefully Ravi was saying good stuff until I got here. I'm Bereket. As Ravi mentioned, I was born and grew up in Ethiopia. I came to the Bay Area during Y-Combinator batch. Yeah, I'm happy to share a couple of things about me and how I got started on this journey. If it would be helpful for you guys. And then I don't know if we're gonna have like a Q&A session or anything like that. And I'm happy if that's the case. Yeah, okay. So I'm Bereket. So I started my journey of being programmer, I think fairly recently. It was during COVID. Even before that, I was always interested in computers, but I was not really doing programming. So during COVID, I started because I wanted to create a very specific tool for selling, scraping Telegram data, and for creating a one-stop shop for all Telegram channels. So in Ethiopia, Telegram is a big thing. So every person you meet will have Telegram, and every small shop have Telegram channels, and they post their product there. So that's how most people actually do kind of e-commerce in Ethiopia. So the problem there was if you want to find some product on Telegram, you'd have to just know the channel or know the business, and you have to go and actually look for it, because Telegram didn't have a search experience, because Telegram was not made for e-commerce. It was just a messaging app. So there was no way to actually look for a product and find it from different channels. And I was doing music back then, and I wanted to buy a MIDI keyboard from Telegram, and I couldn't find it. So I was I had this idea of I always come up with some ideas for doing software and whatnot. And I had this idea of what if we can aggregate all the data from Telegram and have it on one website where anyone can search. And then if they can search it and can find a product, then they can just contact a seller and they can buy it from there. So I started working on that. And at this time, I have no experience writing code at all. So I had a friend. She works at some kind of company locally. She was doing programming, and I think she was taking a software engineer degree. She was doing her bachelor back then. So I asked her to build that for me, and she actually went to the US in the middle of that because she was interning at she had an internship here in the US, and she couldn't continue working on that app. But I was very passionate about it because I thought it was a great idea, and I thought it was gonna be the biggest thing in Ethiopia or whatever. Spoiler alert, it didn't become anything, but as I started working on that, and I started learning programming to be able to build that. And actually, for my surprise, I actually learned how to program, and I built this out. So the whole reason I learned programming was to build this thing. I was not like looking for a job or to get hired or anything like that. It was just like I want to build some stuff like that. I was always passionate about building these things, so I started working on it, and we launched it. The first I launched it like that website, and I try to like market it. Try to like do advertisement on Telegram channels and whatnot. And then it got some traction in Ethiopia, but strictly like I got a job offer because of my project. And when I got a job offer, so when you work in music, music doesn't really pay much. But so the first I think I went. So some guy told me because he saw my website and told me like, hey, I have this use case for Telegram app. Would you like to write it for me, and we're gonna pay you like X amount. Like I've never heard that kind of money, so I was like, oh, what? Like people pay this kind of money for software? And it's like, yeah, let's just do this. And then I stopped working on the Telegram aggregator marketplace, and I got hired by the guy, and I was working for him for a while. So that led me to like programming, and that's how I got into the programming land. Yeah, but like since I was a kid, like I was always like this kind of person where I would come up with ideas, and I was thinking of different ideas on like how we can do stuff. And I got started building like a lot of things, and open source started to give me like a lot of interest. Because the idea of open source really like give me a lot of passion. So I started like contributing to open source projects, and I would like create my own project, and I would to like try to contribute to open source projects. What I noticed back then was like the quality for software, like still, especially even for tools that I was using, was not that high. Even though like I was not like the smartest person to build anything, I was like most things that I see lack a lot of tools. And back then it was like Auth. So for Auth, there was only one project called Next Auth, and that was the only one that had like any kind of like adoption and has a like kind of a framework that does help you implement authentication. If you do an authentication, it's like it's a way to whenever you sign into an application, there is like some kind of system behind it. So the system behind it is called authentication, and so there's authorization piece. So while I was working on like the different applications, self-hosted authentication, like an authentication framework that I can use inside my app, was like the only one was like that was kind of like okay was Next Auth, and other than that, like there was nothing. And the Next Auth was not good either. Like it has a lot of problems. It has like acting table docs. It doesn't have like a lot of features like you need for your auth. I remember it doesn't even have like email and password signing. It was just only like a social signing framework. So you can only do like continuous Google or sign Google. There wasn't like a way to do like email and password. Like if you wanted email and password, you'd have to do it from scratch. Like that was crazy to me. Like how is like there no framework or like tool to be able to roll you on auth? Like it's very common problem. Everyone has to do it, and the only solution so far has been like a service that you have to buy. And I like the idea of like especially I think you guys will relate growing up Ethiopia. Like you're not gonna buy a SaaS product for auth. Like it doesn't make sense. There's a lot of money for someone, especially from a third world country. Like the pricing doesn't make sense at all. And in second place as well, like just like I never like felt easy about the idea of outsourcing my user data to someone else. Like user data seems very important that it needs to live in my DB. I don't know why I would like outsource my own user data to someone else. And also there are a lot of things that I want to do on my own. Like for example, I believe that my site first impression for most people is that my sign up page. Like a lot of people come to the site, go to the sign in page or the sign up page, and that's how like they get introduced to my website. So I want to be able to own that as well. Like I wanted to be able to own that experience, and which you cannot get to like a third party service because they have to like define some kind of specific path, and you have to like go through that, right? So like that gave me like why are we like why isn't there like some kind of solution for this? And then I started thinking about the idea of like a Better Auth, like an auth framework that would start like a simple, but you can add a plugin to it, and then it will like help you implement auth even the most advanced way. And I just had this idea of like democratizing auth and high quality auth to everyone. So I started working on that. I spent like about 5-6 months on and off working on it, learning about auth. At this time, I have no idea what auth space is, what like actually like authentication looks like or whatnot. So I was like a very like a naive person going into it, but I think it helped me because I was like the average developer who doesn't have like much experience with auth, and I can see like I was like the customer for myself. Like it was a problem that I have, and I understood like exactly what kind of problem people were facing. So I was able to like design in a way that would address me, which means like I'm not that unique. So there's a lot of people like me. So I built that out, posted about it on X or Twitter, and from day one, people were excited about the project. A lot of people started like reaching out, and the community started growing, and it was very exciting to see. So we started growing the Discord community. People on X and everywhere else started like picking up with the idea. And then while we growing, I mean I was the only person who was doing this. I think I had a job back then, so I had to quit my job. Okay, that was a good story. Like after I launched the product, like since it had tracking from day one, I called my friend and I told him like, hey, I should probably quit my job like now and I should focus on this. And he told me like, you don't know how things turn out. Like you should keep your job. And maybe like when you make a lot of money out of this, then you'll stop. Figure out if you ever make money out of it. And I was like, all right, cool. If I make like $1 out of this, I'll stop my job. And I think like the next day, someone reached out to me on Discord and asking me like, hey, it was beta, but at that point, like we didn't do like stable version. He told me like, hey, can we sponsor this project so that you guys like, can take it to stable version? And I think he's saying like a $500. I was like, yeah. I sent my resignation letter like that day, and I started my job. So I started doing like open source full time. It was kind of like at some point it got to be tougher because initially there was a lot of people, and I was the only one who can help them out because I was the only one who built it, and I was the only one who knows like how to answer their questions and how to fix the issue and how to like submit a PR and whatnot. So although some people were trying to do some stuff, but for most part, when it comes to open source, they do like a parallel where like the first person is doing a lot, and the second person, if you see like the contribution chart, it's usually like a very big difference. So anyway, I was like a bit overwhelmed because I wanted to like help out everyone, and I want to like be able to answer everyone's question on Discord, and I want to be able to go and like solve everyone's issue. And I think like 3 months in it was like kind of hard, but I had like this idea of like, oh, this is like a great product, art is big space. And if we can like continue the idea of like democratizing high quality software, we can actually create like a bigger company out of this. And I applied to Y-Combinator, and we eventually got into the Spring Batch. And after that, we started growing a lot. And we even like I think after that we also added Next Auth, or the project that actually started me all along, to our company. Now we maintain both projects. And we, as Ravi mentioned, we raised seed round here in SF, and I've been trying to build like a company here in SF. We have a lot of people who are using Better Auth and our ecosystem today. From side projects is to ChatGPT uses our ecosystem products, and we're building a lot of things. And as Ravi mentioned, we're working on a lot of new things. I'm super excited like what we're gonna launch. And it was been a crazy week. So that's where like we're not really super ready about everything, but hopefully we'll launch something great. And we're also working on different projects and different tools as well. And we want to like improve the quality of software. Especially now that it got easier to do software, it's even more exciting time to be doing this. And I'm so grateful for being here and being able to share my story as well.
That's awesome. Thank you. It's like really, really amazing. We'll give people time to ask questions at the moment. Since I've got my camera off first, some questions. I guess like the two questions I have, like the one sort of looking at your past and just like you say, like when you were starting in 2020, like didn't have that strong background in coding, like. How did you get that? Because that's often a question people have. Like, I want to be in tech. I want to learn to code. Where do I go? And then the other one is more forward-looking, is like, what do you see the future in like open source, and particularly with AI, and how that all is going to play out?
Yeah, I think good questions. I have a lot to say about like how to get started with coding. I think the main way to like, I think the only way that you can like be actually good at coding is if you start working on a project and you learn something just for that specific thing. So I think when I see a lot of people who are like good at coding or like done something, they usually start like kind of the same way. They have some problem that they want to fix, and they learn coding just to fix that problem. Like maybe they want to make a game, or they want to make something on the side, or whatever it is. Like they just learn programming just for that use case. Instead of like someone who's like spending time to learn coding for just for the sake of learning, or like, okay, I'll just learn everything I can and then maybe I'll get a job and I'll figure it out. I mean, there are a lot of people who work it out for them that way as well. But in general, I think the best way to learn would be, and then the fastest way to learn would be to figure out like what you want to do, like something you're excited about. Like for some reason, maybe you have some idea that you actually want to do, and maybe you have no idea what to get started, but you have this idea. Okay, I want to do this. It needs to be like someone like Scott, so it's not like crazy idea. Like I want to create like some A drive, probably wouldn't work out. Maybe you can. I don't know. You guys. You should, but you should like have like a very scope, something like maybe like me. I wanted to create like a Telegram tracking, whatever. That's like achievable goal, right? Even though I don't know how to code back then, I knew like it's not like an impossible goal for a software developer, like single developer back then. So I would say like just pick a project, what you want to do. Like it doesn't matter what it is, but it's something you're passionate about that you want to fix. Maybe something that you have, some kind of problem that you have. It doesn't need to be like a business or like a startup or anything like that. Maybe you just want to like fix some problem, and you have that like in your life. And I would just like learn the thing that I need just to build that, like nothing else, just to build that specific project. So I remember like when I built the tool. After I built the tool, I think I used Python to build like the Telegram bot. But the only thing I knew about Python was how to build that Telegram bot. And the first gig I got was like to build another like team use Python. And I was like, I have no idea how to use Python. The only thing I knew back then was just like how to specifically make that bot. And that was my like limit. But that gave me like an opportunity to expand, right? So if you start somewhere like to fix specific some kind of problem, it gives you an opportunity to expand later and to learn more. But if you start like trying to learn like everything, now you get overwhelmed because there's a lot of things to learn. And just too much, and we just never will know. So it's better just to start somewhere specific. That I would say about that. About like the future of coding, open source. I think like open source is gonna be like big. I think open source is gonna be even bigger because I think the software is getting cheaper to create. Code is no longer. I don't think it was before, but I think now even it's more clear. I don't think code is no longer the most valuable thing there. So it's better like to have it open and anyone can collaborate on it. Although like I feel like as things are changing, I don't think like this open collaboration is working anymore. A lot of open source companies now complain about the quality of people contribution, and because a lot of people now have access to AI, they can just like contribute random stuff, and they can spam your repo, and it's been hard to tell like which one not to accept. So maybe that's going on, but like in general, I think code will be open, and more open communities and more open people. Open projects would work well. I don't know if you guys know about OpenCloud or like CloudBot. Even like you just see that guy, right? Like he just made an open source project. I don't think he would get this far if he was like closed source project, right? Like this open source project, it took off. I think it's like the fastest growing repo on GitHub ever. And now like they got acquired by OpenAI within like 2 months of launch, and I think that all happened because of open source. Like it's not open source, like nothing would happen. So I think that's super powerful. When it comes to AI, I think it was kind of true before, but I think like now is really true. As software developer, you want to be someone who can take like a specific idea. Like for example, I was thinking, for example, for our team, like if I gave you a specific thing to work on, or if you figure out like something to work on, you want to be able to go deeper and expand that idea. You kind of role is kind of like a product manager, where you take on like a task expand on it and implement it. Because right now, the actual implementation layer is getting cheaper and cheaper. It's like it almost is becoming unnecessary. So, for example, if I can give you all the details of what needs to be implemented, I kind of no longer need you. Like I can just ask the AI to implement it for me, and it'll probably take me like, I don't know, 10 minutes. I think before, like, there were a lot of people just like there to implement specific tasks, right? Like, you just have this like Kavana board of a lot of things to be implemented, and just like pick one and just implement, pick one, implement. I think now, like, you have to take on like a more general thing, like a high level stuff, like, hey, let's figure out how to implement X. And you go and figure out like all the limitations and things that is implemented to be able to allow X, and then you go there and then implement that. And it's more of like around thinking and how you can like solve problems at high level instead of like implementing specific code. And the kind of people, for example, who try and hire like that, right? Like someone who can like take ownership and can actually go expand. It's not like, I'm not looking for like the base coder ever. I don't think it's necessary anymore. So it's like more of like someone who's like more entrepreneur minded, can take on some kind of problem, can like go through it and expand, and then can align with you on what specifically is needed, and then can create things without like a lot of direction themselves. I think that's where it's headed, and I think that's going to be super valuable going forward. And I think contrary to like how people see it, I think there's going to be a lot of demand for software developers, because I feel like when things become more democratized, more easier to create, there's going to be a lot of software will be created. I don't think the demand for software is limited. I think it's unlimited software is needed. There is like a software need for everything. And I think now that it kind of got cheaper, it's going to be like even more companies want to do more software, and they're going to hire more people. But the kind of software engineering that's going to be needed is very different from like the way that I used to work. That's that I would say.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Yeah, if anybody else has questions, feel free to just unmute yourself and ask, or put in the chat. As I mentioned, we have 3 JetBrains vouchers to give away tonight, and we'll give it away to whoever asks the first 3 questions. So yeah, anybody have any questions for our great speaker tonight? Yeah, go right ahead. I think your name's Guide.
Yeah. Hey, yeah, thanks for the story, and just sharing where you've come from and where things are going, etc. The question I've got is I guess like around open source sustainability, right? So like, to be more direct, like what does the seed capital unlock that you couldn't do before? Is it like a headcount thing? Is it marketing? Is it enterprise features? And I guess what does like sustainability of the project look like long term?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think going from open source to like actual business sometimes is hard, because it depends on what kind of project it is, but sometimes it could be like really hard, because maybe you've addressed all the problem that people have just through open source, so there's nothing to address more, or people already got the value that they need from you through like open source, so like there's nothing to change there. And maybe like you have a kind of a community that does not like understand why they would need to pay for it. For example, if you are on a kind of project that shouldn't require payment, like, or it's not common, like, or company doesn't have a budget for that. I remember, I don't know if you guys know a framework called Remix. It's a Next.js compiler. So when it initially launched, it was a paid product. So to use the framework, you'd have to pay. But it was very weird for people, because people never used to pay for a framework. It's just like open source thing, like no one pays for framework. So it's hard like to charge for things like that where people never used to pay for. But when it comes to things like where people, not only people but companies have budgets for, like for example, when it comes to security, they are mostly like paying for some vendor. It gets kind of easier because like you have like a leeway because they already have a budget for that, and things like that. So the main reason that we also got into YC and all this is because I think we can scale the idea of owning your auth beyond like an individual developer. I think we kind of achieved like a lot of our goal regarding like a bottom up and individual developer adoption. Today we have like over 1 million download a week. So a lot of people are using the framework. But we want to also expand that to enterprises and big companies. And we're working with a bunch of companies right now. And actually one of our tool is used by ChatGPT. So when you're saying ChatGPT, they're using one of our tools. So I think like the idea of owning your auth, especially for software companies, is really important. And I think that needs a lot of work, and that needs a lot of like enterprise readiness as a product. And that is where like where creating company comes in. Beyond that, like I'm a really ambitious person, and I want to do like a lot more than just even auth and like expand more. We really into like the branding of Better. We, as Private mentioned, we did like Better hack recently. It's a hackathon for building better tools, and we're building like a lot of better things on the side. And we also want to like expand more and increase the quality of software down like all the dev tools and other areas that we can give into. So it's more of like expanding your vision and trying to get like the most outcome out of what we're trying to build.
Cool. Thanks.
Thank you for asking.
Thank you. Rian Null in the chat asked, what's the secret sauce that makes a startup attract interest from VCs or accelerators?
Yeah, I think like it could be like a couple of things. One, you could have like a great background. If you were like, I don't know, employ something open air and you want to start a startup, probably you can attract a lot of VCs. Or like if you're like two co-founders, one from something, and you have like a good background, that is one way to attract VC or create interest. During YC, there were like a lot of companies who never built anything. I mean, who didn't have like a product and they got it, but they have a very good background, right? So you would want to bet on them. The other way is like if you don't have like a good background, like me, like if you don't have like if you're not from Stanford or anything like that, I think the next thing you should do is like build something and you have traction. So you figured out like how to get traction. So for us, like before we got into YC, I think we had around like 10,000 stars on GitHub, and a lot of people were already using us. So I think you've got to figure out like one or the other. Like either you have like a great background or you have to have like some kind of traction on the thing you're working on. I think out of these needs to be there. I think that's like the main way to attract the VC or actually interest.
That's amazing. Thank you. Anybody else got questions? You're also welcome to put it in the chat. While we see if anybody else has any questions to share, like a question from me is, I guess, what has been the thing that's been most surprising to the VC, to like people in Silicon Valley and the VC sort of space, like from your perspective, like things that they didn't know about Africa or sort of what you've been doing?
Yeah, I think like people are like always get the thing about VCs want to based on like a unique or like outliers. So so like if you're actually not from like typical background, they usually like are more interested. And if you figured out something, that means there's something interesting there. But people are very excited, like very curious about like how all these things happen from like Ethiopia and like especially like the space. I mean, is not like an African tool or anything like that, or something made for locals or just Africa or something like that. Just like it was just purely dev tool, and in a very like competitive market, right? Like there's 1,000 companies who's doing auth, and to come out of like an African country and just actually like become like the one of the primary tools to implement auth was kind of surprising for most people. Yeah, again, I agree. Like most people just expect if you do like if you're from Africa, they expect you to build like some kind of tool, like to solve some problem here in Africa, which I think is good. But also you can be more ambitious and just fix more problems even beyond that. And I think that's really surprising for most people that I took that kind of journey instead of solving a local problem.
Fantastic. Anyone else have any other questions? Otherwise, I think this was very insightful session, and I definitely learned a lot. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Yeah, and if for everyone else, the attendees, if your friends have missed this, we'll make sure we get it up on YouTube very quickly. But yeah, again, thank you, Ravindra and Bereket, for giving us your time, especially on such a busy week.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, best of luck with the launch.
Thanks so much.
Cheers. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Cheers, everyone. Thank you.